So, look, Kevin Warren talked today. So, obviously, most of the questions are about the stadium. I don't think anything changed. Do you have any opinion, Stadium Man?
Well, I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes here. I mean, I was getting some level of they're going to be saying that they're going to Arlington Heights. This is what, and I never reported on that because I didn't have it locked down at all. So I didn't.
That turned out to be wrong.
And so, and correct. Apparently that is not accurate to this point. So I was half expecting with Warren talking today that he was going to say something about we are making a pivot, and none of that happened. And Hogue, you made the point that he mentioned Arlington Heights a little bit more as like we have other options, but he is determined as best he can, from what I can see, to continue to go down the Chicago path and make have as many conversations to get this thing done. I mean, this is clearly for the zillionth time what he wants. And I asked him, I said, "Are you getting a little exhausted about this?" And he's like, "Exhausted, me," or whatever the word I use. He's like, "Never." So, okay, he's gonna. Kevin Warren's not giving up on this in any way, shape, or form. And I was kind of surprised to see it.
Just real quick, I mean, he kept saying that downtown Chicago was a focus, but then he was also asked, like, if you're building a stadium, would it work regardless of where the location's at? If the focus was only Chicago, wouldn't that be the renderings for every stadium? Wouldn't it only be Chicago based? But it was asked in reference to Arlington Heights being a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my two questions. Mm-hmm. And I brought up, you guys all saw in Hard Knocks, most of you probably watching the show saw Hard Knocks, when they very randomly had a scene in the middle of all the football stuff. It was about a 30-second scene, or at least it seemed that way. It was very short, of
the high tops,
them
right?
discussing, and at the top end of the organization, by the way, the people that were in that room discussing literally like the seats, like high top tables in the suites at the stadium that they're clearly designing right now.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I thought that was interesting, I mean, I don't think it was an accident. It was put in Hard Knocks to eventually lead to me asking a question about it a couple months later. But okay, you're at the point where you're designing the stadium. Do you have to design two different stadiums here, or can they work in both? And he said, you want to build a stadium where it really becomes agnostic from a location standpoint, because it takes so much time from a planning standpoint. So you need to make sure your construction fits. The focus is the museum campus. Mm-hmm. Again, he kept throwing that in there. That is still the focus, but he also put in there right now. And the very big reality of this whole thing, I think we got to pare this down to what really matters. There are limited windows in a calendar year where you're going to get Springfield to approve money. And the other thing he keeps saying, on top of the focus is the museum campus, is construction starting in 2025.
He does keep saying that.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
2025 is 2.5 months away.
Very close.
The last time I checked the calendar. Now, it could happen anytime, but that basically means in the next 14.5 months, for him to be held to that timeline, a shovel needs to go in the ground.
His words.
Either in the museum campus or in Arlington Heights. And my point is, what I keep hearing from Springfield, by the way, is this is like a non-starter right now. Now, it's politics. It can change, and it can sometimes change very, very quickly. We have stories in history of the clocks literally being changed in Springfield so that they can hit a midnight deadline to build what is now, whatever they call it, the rate field, or
right,
for the White Sox stadium, because it's no longer a guaranteed rate, by the way, that company. So my point is, things can change, but the window's starting to close here very, very fast. And a lot needs to change very, very quickly for them to get the funding they need. And meanwhile, sitting in Arlington Heights, another thing that Kevin Warren keeps mentioning in multiple press conferences now, they are the largest landowner in Arlington Heights, which led to my second question to him, which was, Kevin, before you got here and this is now over 2 years ago, there was a press conference, or not, I'm sorry, a town hall meeting. It wasn't a press conference. It was a town hall meeting that the media was invited to, where they went through this entire rendering of Arlington Park that had everything except the stadium. And then, but your focus is on the museum campus. And my point of that question was everything they talked about on that night in Arlington Heights was about how you own the land. You can do all these things beyond just building a stadium, a multi-purpose land opportunity. And yet the museum campus does not offer that. So why do you lean towards this? Essentially, why does that, in your mind, the museum campus trump everything they talked about in Arlington Heights? They didn't really have an answer to that, other than that's obviously where he wants to build the stadium.
Well, he said that it's 326 acres is sweet, but
unique, yeah.
But
the word.
And what you can do there with the rivers flowing through there or whatever makeshift ponds that Arlington Heights has put on that property that they could do, but that doesn't trump being on the lakefront. Period. End of story. We can build all the real estate out there that would be a cool thing, but that to him, that opportunity does not measure up to what it would be like to actually build a stadium on the lakefront.
Yeah, he said that the museum campus has attributes that don't exist anywhere in the world. Arlington Heights has really unique aspects, but he also said, none of these attributes override each other. It's just you look at the positive attributes in each place. Each place is going to have certain attributes that obviously you can look to maximize, and still the museum focus. The museum is,
but see, that's where I'm obviously going to call him out and say, because you're right. Because I think overriding was my word in the question, and he was trying to make the point that one doesn't necessarily but yet the focus is the museum campus. So clearly in his mind, it does override everything else. And I do find the dynamic interesting. We've talked about this before. Kevin Warren wasn't here when all that planning started in Arlington Heights. He wasn't here when Ted Phillips went down the road of purchasing that land. And by the time he got here, it was probably too late to pivot off of it. And they went ahead and closed the deal. And now they have all this land. But I still wonder to this day if that would have happened if Kevin Warren had gotten here 2 years earlier.
The only thing I wanted to call Kevin Warren out on today was when he was talking about, last week at the game on the lakefront, so beautiful, sun shining, the wind. And I'm like, you're building a dome. There won't be there won't be any wind. You'll have air conditioning, and you're going to be able to look through the ceiling. But that wind thing that you're talking about,
it won't exist.
That's not going to be a thing.
That's a fair point, though. The fact that it is going to have a roof, which they've said over and over again, including at the Arlington Heights town hall over 2 years ago, they said roof was the plan. Doesn't that nix some of the benefits of the lakefront?
You can't, even if it was an open stadium, how many people are looking at the lakefront while there's a game going on?
I mean, are we really basing this off of just the TV shots?
He wants that stadium in Chicago, man. It bottom line, he wants to walk with the wind in his hair that he doesn't have.
Yeah, he doesn't have.
And head into that stadium and feel the air conditioning as the wind. And look outside and see the non-blue water of
oh my God, Bragg.
non-blue water of Lake Michigan.
We all silly like the mayor.